So, welcome to Leadership Council San Mateo County's presentation on Community Acceleration Project Program. We're excited to tell you more about the program this year. This is our fifth year of doing community projects, and we're excited to tell you about the program and also give you some details as well as a timeline moving forward. Next slide. So just to give you an idea, we're going to do some team introductions. We're going to give you a little bit of an overview about Leadership Council SMC, and we are going to talk about the CAP program, the timeline, and some of the deliverables, and then we will talk about next steps. We are recording this session. We won't be recording any questions, but this is always available to anyone seeking to apply to the program. So I'm Karin Hardy. I'm one of the co-founders and co-presidents of Leadership Council, and I will turn it over to Laurel to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Laurel Zarbaugh, and I'm the Leadership Program Manager, and I'll turn it over to Margie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Margie Power. I'm also a co-president and co-founder, and we have a few other people on our team. We have Isabella Brown, who's our senior program manager, and she oversees our lead local workshops. We have Diane Willoughby, who's our director of marketing and communications, and we also have Amy McHugh, our director of finance and operations. So, before we tell you about the CAP program, we want to give you a little bit of background about Leadership Council San Mateo County. So, back in 2020, Karin and I noticed a need to better strengthen relationships around the county, especially as we were facing the COVID pandemic. The county was doing excellent work trying to test people and offer vaccines over those first couple of years. And we noticed that there were some areas of the county that would have benefited from being at the decision-making tables. And we also were getting lots of requests to connect public sector folks with private sector people, and thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a program that really strengthened relationships and educated people about civic topics and built on their leadership skills so that they could address some of our biggest challenges in the county and come up with new ideas. So this is what we believe, that if we provide people with countywide cross-sector relationships and empower them with leadership skills and civic knowledge, that'll spark new thinking to address some of our biggest challenges in the county. So what do we do at Leadership Council? We foster cross-sector collaboration, build a leadership pipeline, and one of our core objectives is to make leadership professional development widely accessible, especially to organizations who typically don't have access. And sorry. We do it in two ways. We have two 10-month programs, Leadership Core for senior level leaders and emerging leaders for rising stars. And then we also have another program called Lead Local, which are a series of half-day workshops focused on leadership skills and also civic knowledge.
Fantastic. Thanks, Margie. And we're going to be talking about the leadership immersion programs because that is where our community acceleration programs sit. As Margie just mentioned, we have our leadership core program for senior level leaders in the county. And then we have our emerging leaders program. And our emerging leaders program is really about rising leaders in the county. It's not necessarily someone who's new to their career. It's someone who's demonstrated real leadership potential and has already demonstrated a desire to either make an advance in their career or make a change in their community. And these are exceptional leaders that really range from mid-career to early in their career. But if they're earlier in their career, they really demonstrated a desire and a skill towards making change in our communities. So there are three components of both our immersion programs. The first is civic understanding and engagement. We every month focus on a different topic that could be education, housing, economic development. And we bring in speakers from across the county to talk not only about the history of a particular issue, but also talk about some of our current challenges and opportunities. We also have a leadership skills portion. We work with an executive coaching team who has helped us develop a leadership skills curriculum over the past several years. And they are working with leaders depending on where they're at. If you're a senior leader or you're a rising leader, meeting you where you're at to really sort of accelerate your leadership development and help you make an impact within your organization. And then that third piece is small group work. And for our emerging leaders program or that rising leaders program, it's really about it's our community acceleration projects. This is where community acceleration projects reside within our leadership immersion programs. So to tell you a little bit more about the details of our projects, we will go ahead and get into the details here. So why CAP teams? When we were originally designing Leadership Council San Mateo County's programming, as Margie said, we formed during the pandemic. We asked a talented group of rising leaders within the county to work with us to develop an impactful program for people who are at their stage of their career. They worked with us over a period of 10 months to develop this program. And an essential part of that was the community acceleration project teams. And what they saw and what they proposed is that San Mateo County really needs a thriving nonprofit and government sectors to serve our residents. And we want to make sure those organizations are truly responsive and representative of the community that we serve. Some of the common challenges to both of those sectors, the nonprofit and government sectors, is limited time and resources, and also access to cross-sector resources and skills. So really being able to tap into a new network of people who can provide a fresh perspective on a topic or issue. So our community acceleration projects, they are really built to help leaders in the nonprofit sector, the government sector advance research or advance a project by helping do research, helping to do strategic work, really giving them an opportunity to provide a different perspective from a different group of leaders, and also it's a way for organizations to add capacity. So they may have a project that they really want to move forward, but they need help kickstarting it. They need help in sort of getting it off the ground, or it might be an existing program that they want to take further and they want to explore ways and how to bring that further, how to accelerate that program. Or it may be a program that they know is impactful, but isn't as successful as they thought it would be, and they would like some help diagnosing that problem. And then they also get an opportunity to really engage with high-performing professionals. One of the great things about our programs is that they really attract people who want to have an impact in the community and want to have an impact in the time that they're in the program and afterwards. So you have a highly motivated group of people who are excited to work on your project. As I'll get into the selection process, we select a group of projects. So our participants really get an opportunity to choose something that is meaningful to them to work on. And the time commitment for our emerging leaders is 3 to 5 hours a month outside of class. So they are working with their nonprofit organization or their city or government organization outside of class. If you have a team of between 5 and 7 people, you're looking at about 35 hours of project work per month over a 5-month period. This is just a quote from one of our project leaders this year. So this is Joanne Sandoval, who works for Puente de la Costa Sur, and we did a project for them working on farm worker community outreach as part of a housing survey they were preparing to do. And I just think the summer really sort of this summarizes what we think is so important about our CAP projects. And I'll let you read it, but they really felt like they had an opportunity to collaborate with a really talented group of leaders, and they feel like that collaboration is going to continue into the future. So the benefit to your organization is again problem solving with a cross-sector group of leaders, improving a project or a program, or helping to launch a new project or program. But in addition to those programmatic benefits, you're also having an opportunity to expand your network with influential leaders, and build strong relationships with people who maybe want to continue work in your organization, but who are deeply interested in the issue or topic that you're currently working on, which is why they've chosen your project. But we have lots of examples, and I'll show you some brief statistics in a moment, but of our CAP team members carrying on to continue working with their organization long after the program ends. So as we look at some of the statistics here, Leadership Council tracks everything we do. And if we can sort of click through these statistics, one of the things that we do is 77% of our class participants say they expanded their network and relationships within the county, and 100% of our CAP leads said they were able to expand their networks and relationships. And when we asked CAP team leads if they were able to advance something in their organization, 100% of CAP leads were satisfied with the work and felt like they were able to move something forward. And then this is a really great statistic. 41% of our graduating class intends to continue their work with their CAP organization. And when we survey our alumni, we're in the process of doing an alumni impact survey, and we do it every 2 years. 20%, 5 years on, 20% of our graduates who worked with the CAP team are still working with their CAP team and still stay involved. So this is really, you could be the beginning of a long-term relationship with the people on your team. So who should apply? We sort of alluded to this, but 501(c)(3) organizations. If you are not yet a 501(c)(3), if you have a sponsoring organization or a 501(c)(6) organization. So this could be something like a chamber of commerce or a business association, but 501(c)(6)s are also considered for the program. And as I said, an organization with a fiscal sponsor if you are not yet a 501(c)(3). Government agencies can also apply. We have done project work for our chief equity officer within San Mateo County, as well as members of the board of supervisors and department heads. And also you can be a city. So we have done past projects for the city of Daly City, Half Moon Bay, City of South San Francisco. So you can also propose a project as a city, and then a county board or commission. We have done work with commissions within the county as well. So any of these organizations are welcome to apply. So here's the timeline. Applications are officially open today. You can, we will put a link in the chat to the application, but you can, the applications are open today, and I'll sort of walk through high level what the questions are. The deadline to complete those applications is 9/25. So you have a month basically to work on those applications. And one of the things that we do is we make ourselves available as a team to help you think through a project. So you might have an idea, but maybe you don't know how to structure it for the purposes of this project. So please feel free to reach out to our team to get more information or talk through a problem. So we have a lot of meetings to help with that when putting together your application. Once you are selected, we will let projects know if they're selected no later than the 8th of October. And we will notify you, and then we also notify you with detailed next steps. And some of those next steps include we have an orientation session for our CAP leads where we talk about the really nitty-gritty details of the program, what's expected, and sort of what materials we will work with you to help develop. It's nothing that's a heavy lift. We just have you filling out sort of a purpose worksheet with your purpose statement or with your project statement, your project problem statement. And we work with you just to record a quick 15-minute video of you talking about the project. Because when we give this information to our classes, we want them to know who they're working with and sort of know a little bit more about the project. So we complete those CAP videos and one pagers, as we call them, by the end of October. And then we then take all that information, give it to our Emerging Leaders program. They have a suite of, as I said, around 6 projects. They rank the projects they'd like to work on, the ones they're most interested in. And we just have them list their top 3. Most of our project participants get their first choice and occasionally their second choice. We very seldom go to their third choice. It always seems to magically work out. But we construct these teams of 5 or 6 people. But by them choosing the project, they're really interested in the topic that you're talking about and that you want work on. So they want something that they're interested in, something they want to learn more about, but something they really want to bring their skills to bear on that issue. Once you're introduced, we introduce you via email to your CAP team. And our CAP teams are always really excited to hear from their CAP leads and know which project they're on. And they always respond really quickly. But you have a month then to set up a Zoom meeting just to meet your team, to sort of get to know them via Zoom, ask some questions about maybe, we give you some ideas of some questions to ask, but why did they choose this project? What is their personal experience with this issue or why they want to get involved with this issue? But it's just a time for you to get to know them a little bit better. And then you really get to know them at our kickoff, which is January 22nd. It's in Half Moon Bay. And it is in the afternoon. I believe we'll give you the exact timing, but I believe it's from 1 to 3:45. And you get to work with your CAT team more deeply. You sort of set your plan. This is a 5-month project, or we call a 5-month project sprint. And so you really get to talk a little bit more. You've already met your team. You've talked about why they're working on the project. And this is a chance to kick off your project. What are going to be some of the first things that you want to accomplish? What are some of the deliverables that you think you want to work towards? But it really kicks off the work. To date, we've had the opportunity to work with McKinsey and Company, a global consulting firm, who comes and leads that kickoff session. They decide year by year based on their availability, but we're continuing that partnership. But that really gives you an opportunity to kick off the project. And then from February through the end of May, it's monthly meetings with your team. These meetings are to check in, make sure work is on progress. But between those meetings, it's really being responsive to your team, getting them information that they've asked for, reviewing any work that they're working on. But we say that the work for a project lead is probably 2 to 3 hours a month. So you'll have that project team meeting, but it's also time to review their work and get them the information they're requesting, as I mentioned. And then your final deliverables are completed by the end of May. A final deliverable is whatever you believe it to be. So that is something you work with your team. It could be, in some cases, our teams have put together marketing campaigns for an initiative. So it could be just all the documents associated with the project. It could be a presentation. We did a project for the art organization Art Bias last year, and their final project was a set of recommendations that they presented to their board of directors. Sometimes they're presentations to the board of supervisors, but it's really whatever you decide that is. It's not a deliverable that is owed to Leadership Council. It's a deliverable that's owed to you. And then we have program graduation on June 4th, which is a really great event, and we just welcome you to come and celebrate our graduates. We have a wonderful ceremony. It's a very quick ceremony, but it's a ceremony nonetheless. And a lot of our alumni come back, our CAP team leads come, and we really, although it's not mandatory, we really encourage you to attend our graduation so you can once again connect with your team. So as your responsibilities, we've touched on a lot of these, but it's to attend the required CAP lead orientation and those team meetings to proactively work with your team. So, make sure that you're scheduling meetings. You do have a group of 5 or 6 people. So maybe, setting up that cadence so that maybe it's on Monday mornings that you talk, or the first Monday of the month. You can decide to have more frequent meetings depending on your availability and your team's availability. And then also just reconnecting and making sure they have the resources that they need to do the work that you would like them to do. So that part of that, we work with you during the CAP lead orientation session, but making sure that you're ready to launch with information and access to resources so that you can really getting the most out of your team is being as available as possible to their to what they need to move forward. And again, reviewing information and feedback in a timely way. It's not, if they're having difficulty reaching you, you're just not going to get as much work done. It's very difficult for them to work in a vacuum. And then scheduling the final presentation, just making sure that you're all working towards a goal and a date and that final deliverable, and then attending graduation, which is optional but highly recommended on June 4th. Our CAP team responsibilities. So your team is also the team will attend their mandatory session in January to make sure that they're there for the kickoff. They're proactively working to schedule meetings with you, the team lead, and then making sure that they are providing updates to their work. So they are keeping you updated about what's happening. And that could be on a monthly basis. It could be more frequent. Again, that's up to you to decide. To seek help when it's needed. So if they're stuck or they have a question about direction, and to work with you to define that final project and then schedule the presentation. And one of the things that we really emphasize here is that you may approach the project with a specific outcome in mind, and we really ask our team leads to go where the CAP team brings you. Again, with agreement, and not if the CAP team decides they want to do something completely different. But a lot of times we have a great example where we had a community health initiative that a CAP team was working on where they were looking to increase enrollment in this initiative. And they thought it was really an awareness campaign that they needed. And when our CAP team dug into what was happening, they found that it was actually a process problem. People were trying to access this health resource, but when they looked at the flow of the process to enroll, they realized it was a major problem with getting people enrolled that stopped people from getting enrolled. So they didn't actually need an awareness campaign. Once they fixed that procedural problem, they were able to reach capacity and enrolling people in that program. So that's what I mean with sort of being able to pivot a little bit. You may think the answer is this, but your CAP team may have other suggestions and discover other things along the way. So in terms of the application, the application should take you about 20 minutes, or 20 to 30 minutes, depending on, how well defined you already feel like your problem statement is. But we ask you your problem statement. So what is it that you are trying to solve? We ask you who your audience is, who you're trying to solve it for. And what would success look like? So if 5 months from now, if you're successful in getting this information, what will you be able to do? What would the outcomes of this project look like for you? And how does it align with your organizational goals? So, we ask you just to give us your mission statement of your organization, but then this question really says, can you align how this project will help further that mission? And how will you ensure regular communication and engagement? Just some ideas you might have around Zoom meetings, in-person meetings, whatever you think might be a good fit for you. And then who will be the main contact? Maybe the person who's applying for the project will be the main contact. That is most of the time the case. But if it is someone different, we just like to know who that main contact is. And then sustainable outcomes and how will you use the results? So what will be the next step in this project? So once you get the results from the team, how are you going to carry that work forward? So making sure this isn't something that gets put on a shelf. We talked to a CAP leader the other day who had a project 2 years ago, and she was actually she gave us an update on how she was still working through the plan that the project team had given her and how far she was and how and what sort of what the outcomes were. And it was really inspiring to hear, but she's still using that work. So we just want to hear about some of your ideas and how you're going to use this work going forward. Next slide. So when you're developing your problem statement, and I've got a couple of problem statements to show you, and they're just samples, but we really want to make sure that it's practical and it's achievable, right? So it is only 5 months, and you have about, as we said, about 35 hours a month with your team. So what is a practical and achievable? Focus as specifically as you can on a problem. And also make sure that you are available. So if it's really this, you have a project team working to help you accelerate a program or launch a program, they're only going to be as good as your availability. So just making sure that you're available. As we said, it's 2 to 3 hours a month, considerably less than working on the project yourself. And again, you have this really talented input from a group of individuals with varied backgrounds and skills, but making sure that you're available. And then leveraging existing resources. So you want to make sure that whatever project you're putting forward, the resources exist to move the work forward. If want to make sure that they have everything they need when they start the project, and then to the best of your ability at this point, really making sure they're tangible outcomes and you know where you want to get to, and then an after project plan, as we talked about, sustainable, and making sure that you can carry the results forward. So here we have a couple problem statements. This is one that we did for El Concilio. They had a climate justice and environmental justice curriculum, and they had developed one module. And the one module was very successful, but they also wanted to really grow the program. And before they did that, they wanted to evaluate the program they'd put together. So what our CAP team actually did was not only evaluate the program, but actually made suggestions for the next two modules of the program. So they were able to go in, get feedback from participants, and then from that suggest what the follow-on action items would be, how to improve the program, and then how to carry it forward. And our project team wrapped up their work in May, and by fall, they were launching the new modules of their program. We also did a program for Stanford Haas Center, and they were looking at first period absentee issues with their students who are coming from East Palo Alto and Bellhaven and being able to show up on time to school. And they really wanted to look at, okay, what was the source of the problem and what were some suggestions on improving it? And they came up with some really, they had some community meetings, got feedback from the community, and came up with some really innovative solutions on how they could motivate students. Also, it's very, very difficult transportation routes between East Palo Alto and Bellhaven to get to Menlo Atherton. Really difficult transportation routes, but how could additional routes that they could suggest, or additional workaround solutions, but also finding ways to motivate them to get there for that first class so that maybe they're willing to wake up a little bit earlier and make and make that extra effort for motivation. So that was another problem statement that we worked on. And then the last one is the Reach Coalition. They were a new nonprofit and mainly formed around volunteers. And they really wanted to help raise the visibility of the work they were doing. And our group not only put together a communications plan, but put together ideas for how to move the organization forward. And this is the conversation I alluded to earlier, where we just met. This was a project from 2 years ago. We recently met with this CAP lead, talked about the fact they were still implementing this plan. Like it was a meaty enough plan that has really helped them move this organization forward. And it actually led to them solidifying their 501c3 status as an organization. So those are the high level information. Our application deadline is September 26th. So we look forward to hearing from you. And again, please reach out if you would like help shaping your problem statement and you maybe have an idea or are just wondering if your project is right for this program. And we're really happy to help with that. So before we take questions, because we'll stop the recording, I'll just go to the last slide. I don't think there's, yeah, I just might want to make sure there's no more information. So we'll stop the recording and we'll stop sharing. But just wanted to make sure you all had the information you need. Again, please reach out to our team. We are here to help. This is a really important program, and we look forward to seeing the applications for this year.